have a theory, just a little theory, that, Donald Trump was getting a little sick of Joe Biden hogging the entire news cycle. I mean, let's face it, all anybody can talk about is Joe's cognitive decline. So he came out with this little number. We got some breaking news on the vice presidential front to talk to you about. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program. I am Trish Regan. This is Trish Regan Show. Make sure that you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you share, make sure you weigh in with your thoughts. On who should be the vice president. We're going to talk all about that today. Plus, as I said, you want to talk about hogging the news cycle. Joe Biden, my gosh. I mean, you would not believe the spectacle that is going down. There is so much chaos in the White House right now. I don't know how anybody gets their job done. There was a total meltdown in the press room that I got to show you. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I'm sitting there going, this is our government. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a problem. And then Jill Biden, Dr. Jill, she's emerging from the shadows like Lady Macbeth, and she's not giving up. A whole series of things have just happened. I mean, basically showing me that she really is running the sloppy Joe SH you-know-what show, right? That's coming down out of the White House right now. She's getting a little touchy with reporters. She's had a few little instances that really don't paint her in a very good light. So we're going to talk about that. And let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, I do think that Donald Trump is getting sick of hearing about Joe Biden in the news cycle. So he needed to do a little something about that. And he's got a little something up his sleeve. You see, he has the convention coming next week. In order to really generate some momentum for that convention, he wants to get out in front of the big kahuna, and that is who is going to be his vice presidential pick. So we got the biggest clue of anything. I happen to have some intel that I'm going to share with you on who it's going to be. But first, let's watch Donald Trump, former president of the United States of America, quite potentially the next president of America, telling Fox, he went on Sean's show last night, just exactly what's going down as far as the VP is concerned. Let's cue the tape.
No, this was last minute. Thanks for calling in tonight. And I want to ask you about your VP choice. How soon do you think you'll be making that choice, number one? Number two, we keep reading that there is a short list, and on the short list, we hear names like Senator Rubio, Senator Tim Scott, Senator J.D. Vance, Governor Burgum. Are those reports accurate? Are there other people maybe people aren't paying attention to? And when do you think you'll announce that?
Well, we started off with a lot of people. We have a lot of good people. As they call it, we have a great bench in the Republican Party. The names that you mentioned, absolutely, they're under consideration. And I haven't made final decision, but I have some ideas as to where we're going. And a little bit, we wanted to see what they're doing, to be honest, because, it might make a difference. I don't know. I'm not sure that it would. But there are those that say Trump's waiting until he finds out what's going to happen with crooked Joe Biden. And we'll see what happens with Biden. But, I think probably within the next week and a half, probably sometime. I'd love to do it during the convention. My people say that's a little complicated. In the old days, they would announce the vice president during the convention. Today, with modern-day technology, you can't do things that you could have done 50 years ago very easily. But probably a little before the convention, but not much. It could even be during the convention that we'd do it. I'd love to do it during the convention. I think it would be a very interesting build-up and important for the convention. It would make it even more exciting. It's going to be amazing in Milwaukee.
If you announced it right now on this show, I think it would make a lot of news. I'm just saying.
Well, if I did it, I'd love to do it with you. But we'll be announcing soon, and I think everybody's going to be very, very happy. The choice will be very, very good. It's going to be a great vice president, meaning a person that can do a fantastic job as president, because you always have to think of that first. And then second, somebody that helps you get elected. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. So he knows who it's going to be. And I think I know who it's going to be. Do you guys think you know who it's going to be? If so, let us know. I'm watching the live chat here. I know that there's been a lot of contingencies out there for certain folks, but I think it's really come down to his top three. So let's go through them one by one. You got J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, who, by the way, was is a veteran, was, fought overseas. The Wall Street Journal did a huge deal on him just recently. J.D. Vance is very much in the running. He comes from Ohio. He grew up in West Virginia. He had that book that everybody talked about and really kind of catapulted him to a new level and got him the position of senator there in Ohio. Hillbilly Elegy, he really understood and understands, I think, the mindset of everyday Americans. Like it's too easy, right? With these people that forget, these elites, so to speak, that even if they came from nothing, like somehow forget where they came from. JD knows where he came from. And he recognizes the challenges that America in this increasingly global environment is presented with. And those are economic, those are social, those are massive. And we will not succeed, by the way, as a society, if those needs are not addressed and those needs are not met, because America's middle class is the foundation of America. It is America. And I don't know where the left is going with all their nonsense and all their protests and all their discrimination, if you would, against American values that have made us the most successful power on the planet of this earth. JD gets that and understands that, and I think would be a terrific pick, but I'm not necessarily sure it's going to be JD. In part just because knowing Donald Trump, he's like, wait a second, I'm the show, okay? And JD is also kind of a show. And JD has a past in which he kind of went after Donald Trump. And I don't know if Trump is going to be so easygoing with that. Now, he could be. Look, I mean, politics makes strange bedfellows, and they all seem to forgive each other like that. I'm still amazed that Ted Cruz ever forgave Trump for going after his dad with the whole, kill Kennedy thing, and then going after his wife, but hey, I'm not a politician for a reason. I wouldn't have as easy a time getting over a few things. But Donald Trump, likewise, I think is able to sort of say, okay, I'm going to move on with it. And so I think he would move away from any of the criticism that JD has given him in the past. And so therefore, JD is still very much a name that we got to keep an eye on. As we look back at some of those contenders, I see you guys writing in with some thoughts. And I know you all love Tulsi. I don't think that's happening at all. All right. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. I love Tulsi too. I think she's fantastic. I mean, I was watching her when she was a Democrat. This woman's good, and they sure destroyed her. I mean, the idea that, again, this woman who fought for our country would be called a Russian spy by the likes of Hillary Clinton and her team. I'm sorry, but there's something really, 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 really wrong with that. But because she's not as predictable as a conservative, as a business person even, I don't think that Donald Trump's going to go with her. Gosh, you guys love Tulsi. What is this? I know you like Vivek too. Again, Vivek, big personality. Okay? That's great. And maybe he'll have a great job in the cabinet. And I think he's got a big political future. But not necessarily. I'm laughing. We're looking at this in real time. By the way, if you're listening to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, thank you for that. If you guys aren't, if you're watching on video, maybe later, go over and show us some love. Give us a nice review, 5 stars, all that. But Don just wrote, Trish is the goodest. Thank you, Don. Love that. Trish is the goodest. It's our new word, right? Yeah. We can talk a little bit about that later. But back to who is going to be the vice president of the United States, because I do think that this is going to be a winning ticket. Ladies and gentlemen, Drew, put up the names again. JD is in the running, but I don't think it's him. Looking across the screen, another name we keep hearing about, and increasingly I've heard more about just in the last sort of 48 hours, Marco Rubio. Él habla español. Sí, es de Cuba, originalmente. Yo también hablo español. Lo siento. He speaks Spanish, so that, I guess, is worthwhile, and they think that he can court some of the Spanish voters. He's got some challenges, right? He's from Florida. Donald Trump's from Florida, but I don't think Marco would have any problem moving his residency so that he wouldn't technically be from Florida, so he could do that. So let's assume that thing's out of the way. Yes, he helps on the Spanish front. I don't necessarily see him as having been, again, the most loyal, but maybe that doesn't matter, right? As we just discussed, politics makes strange bedfellows. So Marco could help him get elected. I think he's got Florida no matter what. I think he's kind of got Hispanics, believe it or not, no matter, but it helps on the margin, right? It helps on the margin. And I think that there's a lot of people within the Republican Party that really like the idea of Marco. He's sort of tried and true. He's trusted. They feel like they can talk to him. They feel like he's got a good handle on the international front. And therefore, he's a party favorite, definitely a party favorite. But I think when push comes to shove, it's going to come down to one man. And it's a man that you don't really know anything about, that you haven't really heard about. But that's kind of perfect for Donald Trump. You see, he wants somebody who can do the job, who can help him get elected. And by helping him get elected, it might mean bringing in those stragglers with lots of money. Because Doug Burgum, he's a billionaire himself, sold his company to Microsoft, software company, and understands how to run a business, has been loyal to Donald Trump from the start. I don't think he's ever criticized him, really. And nobody really knows him, which means you're not competing for airtime. Thank you very much. I mean, he's got to compete with Joe and his cognitive decline nonstop, right? Think about it. So I have a decent track record at this. I could be wrong, but I did say it's going to be Pence. I mean, I said at the time I could be wrong too. I'm not usually wrong. I could be. Hey, I'm only human too. But I guess if I were a betting woman, I would put my money on Doug Burgum. I really would. And I think it's because he's sort of, the calmness that Trump would like, that steady Eddie kind of approach, gets business, can talk to donors. I mean, that's kind of what the VP has to do, right? Go out and shake hands and eat a lot of chicken dinners. And he can do that and allow Trump to be the star. He also doesn't have to worry as much about Doug Burgum being a successor, in the sense that JD has very clear political ambitions. I mean, Burgum probably does too. Why else are you doing this, right? It's just that they're not as obvious. Like if you read The Art of War, one of the Sun Tzu things is, really to kind of wait and strike at the appropriate time. So many of these politicians, they're out there striking all the time. For goodness sakes, Ron DeSantis, what were you thinking? Did you really think that you were going to be able to go up against Donald Trump? That you thought you could run to the right of Trump and that was going to be successful? Because no, you just kind of came across as a mean guy to a lot of people. So it's these politicians that are out there in front nonstop, right? Fighting for their chance at survival, fighting to get noticed. I think it was actually part of Kristi Noem's challenge, right? You think about her, she was once on that VP list, but the knives were out. I mean, people were ready to pounce and to attack, and indeed they did with Kristi. So she kind of peaked too early. You know how they talk about peaking in politics? Well, Doug Burgum hasn't peaked at all, right? Like, this would be the peak. And I think that Trump would like that. Now, again, I may be totally wrong, but just judging from my knowledge of him and how he works and thinks about things and how he's done things in the past and just the things that he has said. I mean, he keeps pointing out, like, it's not the be all end all, right? Folks, don't get too excited. Get excited enough. I want to string it out. I'd like to announce it at the convention. You see how he dangled that one out there? We got the convention coming up. And so he'd like to announce it. Oh, but his team is telling him not to. He will watch and see what happens with Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is the gift that keeps on giving. Is he going to be running against Joe Biden? Or is he going to be running against someone else? If he's running against someone else, maybe he would lean more towards Marco Rubio, or maybe somebody else. I mean, Tim Scott has been mentioned before. Byron Donalds has been mentioned before. Maybe he feels like he needs to check a box. Again, my experience with him is he's sort of like, forget that. Like, who cares? I'm not checking any boxes. Like, if you can do the job, that's all I care about. He's not like, okay, I got to pick a woman. I got to pick a minority. Like, that's just not him. But he might, if it's in fact Kamala Harris that's going to be running, maybe decide to change his attitude on that. I guess it's sort of, you know what? We'll see. But I can tell you, he does know who he is going to pick. He has announced that he knows who he's going to pick. He has dangled out that he may, in fact, even announce it, surprise, surprise, at the convention. His team is discouraging him from doing that. I don't think the pick is going to be earth-shattering. I think it's going to be, in my estimation, probably Doug Burgum. We'll see. We'll see if Trish Regan is right. Turning to some breaking news, everyone. Absolute chaos at the White House. I mean, the place is just disintegrating really and truly in real time, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot believe it. You got to see it to believe it. So there was a press conference and a total meltdown ensued because a reporter dared to ask a pretty sensible question. You see, the New York Times has reported that a neurologist who specializes in Parkinson's disease has visited the White House 8 times in the last year. The visits apparently ended in the spring, but they started last summer. So this is kind of a big deal, right? So naturally, as a reporter, you ask the press person for the White House about this. Only the press person doesn't want to get asked this and doesn't want to answer the question. So watch the total chaos that ensued. Let's cue this tape.
We provide to all of you.
It's a very basic, direct question.
Wait. Hold on. Wait a second.
Eight times, or at least once, in regards to the president specifically.
Hold on a second.
Not what you should be able to answer by this point.
Wait, no. No, wait a minute. Ed, please. A little respect here, please. So every year, around the president's physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. That is what I'm sharing with you, right? So every time he has a physical, he has had to see a neurologist. So that is answering that question.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It is. You're asking me.
Kennard come to the White House.
But I also said to you, Ed, I also said to you, for security reasons, we cannot share names. We cannot share names. We have to.
Others he would have met with.
We
You
cannot.
can share names in regards to if someone came here in regards to the president.
We cannot share names of specialists broadly, from a dermatologist to a neurologist. We cannot share names. There are security reasons. We have to protect.
It's public.
I understand that.
I
hear you.
It's right there for anyone to see.
Ed, I hear you. I cannot from here confirm any of that because we have to keep their privacy. I think they would appreciate that too. We have to give them.
The doctor.
We have to keep their privacy.
It is public.
It's public information.
I hear you.
And you're going to allow this to fester longer, Kareem, unless the White House answers the question.
Hold on a second. There's no reason to go back and forth and be in this aggressive way.
Miffed around here about how information's been shared with the press corps about him.
What are you missed about? What are you missed about?
Everything he just asked about.
And then every time I come back and I answer the question that you guys asked.
Correctly, you didn't have to come back and clean it up.
I never answered the question incorrectly. That is not true. I was asked about a medical exam. I was asked about a physical. That was in the line of question that I answered. And I said, no, he did not have a medical exam. And I still stand by that. Matter of fact, the president still stands by that. He had a verbal check-in. That is something that the president has a couple times a week. A couple times a week.
Now in regards to Dr. Kevin Kennard.
And I am telling you right now that I am not confirming names from here. It is a security reasons. I am not going to do that, Ed. It doesn't matter how hard you push me. It doesn't matter how angry you get with me. I'm not going to confirm a name. It doesn't matter if it's even in the log. I am not going to do that from here. That is not something I am going to do. What I can share with you is that the president has seen a neurologist for his physical 3 times. 3 times. And it is in the reporting that we share a comprehensive reporting. Matter of fact, it's more than what the last guy shared, and it is in line with what George W. Bush did. It's in line with what Obama did. And so it is comprehensive. It is out there. I just read a quote from it, but I am not going to devolve somebody's name or confirm someone. I'm not going to do that. That is as privacy for that person. I'm not going to do that. It doesn't matter how hard you push me. It doesn't matter how angry you get.
I mean, you get the picture. They're stonewalling. I mean, it's a matter of public record now. The guy came into the White House 8 times. She's only going to tell you that he met with President Biden 3 times. But why the heck was he at the White House 8 times? And why can't she even admit it when it's actually part of public record? Something's going on here. They're trying to divert and distract. Wait till we get to the big boy stuff. That's coming up. But here's the deal. First of all, we got to make sure that this big boy, Joe Biden, actually is potty trained, for goodness sakes. I mean, right? I mean, this is a guy who we're increasingly worried about because of cognitive decline. Let's go over to NBC News. This is NBC, ladies and gentlemen. The National Broadcasting Corporation, which has increasingly over the years become like state media, they have suddenly turned, along with many others, except of course over on MSNBC. They're out there on their little island. But this is the NBC digital operation. They put on this doctor that basically says he can diagnose Joe Biden with Parkinson's like that. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but you got to hear this. I've certainly known people with dementia and people with Parkinson's, and we've certainly all seen signs before, but don't take it from me. Let's listen to the doctor that they put on NBC. Watch.
Noticed anything that gives you a red flag as a doctor?
Oh, yeah, I see him 20 times a day in clinic. I mean, it's ironic because he has just such classic features of neurodegeneration. I mean, word finding difficulties, and that's not, oh, I couldn't find the word. That's from degeneration of the word retrieval area.
He's also overcome stuttering, though. Could that be part of that, too?
No, this is not a palatal issue or a speech discrepancy, which is very different from a lemino dysfunction, actual word retrieval, where you pick a similar question or talk around the issue, plus the rigidity, monotone voice.
Wait, go back to that, the rigidity. What do you mean?
Rigidity, loss of arm swing, standing up lordotically. You notice when he turns, it's kind of end block turning. It's not a quick turn. So that's one of the hallmarks of Parkinsonism is rigidity and bradykinesia, slow movement. And he has that hallmark, especially with the low voice. He said was a cold hypophonia. A small monotone voice like this over time is a hallmark of Parkinsonism. I could have diagnosed him from across the mall.
Here are some of the symptoms from Parkinson's. We just had him up there on the screen. If we can put him back. What about the movement? Some people have pointed out the way he walks. Sometimes it's not very fast, small steps. Is that something that is common in people who are battling a disease like Parkinson's?
Yeah, it's a hallmark. Shuffling gait, we call that, so little steps. Loss of arm swing from the rigidity. When we walk, we have a nice cadence. You notice he doesn't really swing his arms. And end block turning, meaning he kind of pivots around his foot. If you said, hey, President Biden, he wouldn't go like this. So, yeah.
But I also know, and tell me if I'm wrong here, it's very hard to diagnose Parkinson's, isn't it? It's not simple. I mean, I've heard that it can be.
It's one of the easier movement disorders to diagnose, actually.
Right,
but it's so clinic. There's very little other. And I'm a Democrat. I always say about this.
Right.
It's just like this guy is not a hard case.
But I've had relatives who have gone through neurological issues, and I've heard that sometimes Parkinson's is not very easy to nail. You have to take a lot of tests.
It's early on. If you're just presented with like hallucinations, that could be a variety of things, or just the cognitive problems. That could be Alzheimer's versus Parkinsonism, and that becomes a little nebulous. But once you start manifesting the hallmark motor symptoms,
right,
slow movement, rigidity, mass facies, hypophonia. I mean, if a med student did not pick Parkinson's on the test, they'd be remediated.
So let me ask you, you're a Democrat, you're a doctor. You sound like you're frustrated with what the White House is saying.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because, I'm an American before everything. And I look at it and say, when I used to see Russia, Soviet Union, North Korea, when they just make outrageous things, like when North Korea can't keep the lights on and they say, oh, it was some faulty power thing. I kind of hate that kind of stuff. They had 4 years, my own party had 4 years to find, this was a wreck in slow motion. And they had 4 years to find out of 350 Americans, one person that could take the place. And here we are the day before school trying to do the homework and replace a guy who's got a neurodegenerative disease.
Dr. Pitt.
Gosh, he's so right on that, right? We've been saying for years, it's a mess. The guy's a mess. His policies are a mess. His policies. All right, let's forget about the neurological disorder or challenges that he may or may not have. Let's just forget about it for 1 second. Let's go back to the economy. It's the economy, stupid. For goodness sakes, what a mess. The inflation is out of control. Out of control. I mean, you're paying more for everything now. You're not making as much as you used to. adjusted for inflation. You know how bad it is. It's one of the reasons why I keep saying diversify, diversify, diversify. One of the diversification strategies we talk about is gold over on 76 Research, but I want to plug our friends at American Heart for Gold. American Heart for Gold today. This is the gold company that I trust and I look at for my gold investing. 1-844-495-1115. You can text Trish to 65532 or go to trishlovesgold.com. Text Trish, Trish, my name to 65532 because you know what you're going to get up to with their special offer, depending on what you do there, up to $15,000 in free silver. So that's a heck of a deal, right? And silver's been going up too lately. It's kind of a little bit of a proxy, a little more volatile if you would than gold, but nonetheless definitely worth looking at in this environment. Up to $15,000 in free silver. Just text Trish to 65532, 65532, or go to trishlovesgold.com and use my code word Trish. Wow. I mean, that doctor, gosh almighty, he really feels like he's onto something. And he's saying this from the viewpoint, I think, of just being an American. Like, look, party stuff aside, economic stuff aside, although I can't really ever put that aside. Sorry. Like policy is way too important to me. Let me just put party stuff aside because you know what? JFK cut taxes, right? Like anybody can have good economic policy. Let's not make it a partisan thing. Let's just assume that you want to do the right thing for the country. This president has not done the right thing for the country. Absolutely not. His policy, his administration has been a disaster from Afghanistan on, okay? From Afghanistan to the border to inflation. So the funny thing here is they don't even get that. They're so delusional there at the White House. They're not going to tell you if the neurologist came or went. And they're not going to actually tell you what's really going on in the economy or whether or not this president's policies have been a failure. And the media, they're in on that one too. I'm sorry, but they just are. I mean, granted, they had their big, great awakening recently with the debate night, realizing that, Joe Biden's not what he once was and realizing that they were going to lose this election big time, like by a landslide, unless they made a change. And so you see the media starting to change, and yet they're not really willing to give up on these asinine policies that have landed us where we are. Case in point, take a look at the AP headline today. This was like clickbait if I ever saw it. Take a look at this one. Biden says he won't step aside. But if he does, here's why Harris is the favorite to replace him. So I read this headline at first, which crossed on my phone because, I read it all, everything, right, left, center, and everything in between. So anyway, I get this headline and I'm like, wait a second. Biden's advocating that if he steps aside, he's not going to step aside. But if he did, it would be Kamala. Well, no, the writers who don't seem to have columnists next to their names. The writers are actually writing this as though it's fact. Harris is definitely the favorite to replace Joe Biden. They write, President Joe Biden insists that only the Lord Almighty can convince him to quit the presidential race. But should he change his mind, Vice President Kamala Harris is by far the best positioned to replace him. Oh boy, oh boy. And so then the article goes on and on to tell us that, in fact, these are all the reasons why. And it's because of the record. I'm sorry, that's no record to write home about, ladies and gentlemen. If I were you, I'd be running really, really far from the Biden administration. By the way, just take a look at the polls. This woman polls even worse than Joey Boy. But according to Jill Biden, you're not going to have to worry about Kamala or anyone else for that matter, because according to Dr. Jill, who's apparently controlling the husband on some kind of puppet string, he's in it to win it. Watch her here.
President Biden wakes up every morning ready to work for you. That's what this election is all about. You. For all the talk out there about this race, Joe has made it clear that he's all in.
Yeah. She's all in, apparently. Hunter's all in, apparently, too. I mean, she's all in. You know that she's running the sloppy Joe SHT show, right? Like that. Obviously, she's running it. She's running every bit of it because she loves talking about her husband like he's a little boy. Remember her the other night after the debate? She looked at him on that stage and she said, Joe, you just did so good. You answered every question. You knew all the answers. I'm so proud of you, honey. I mean, is she his mom or his wife? Given his advancing age and apparent cognitive decline, I'm guessing she's a little bit more mom and nurse than anything else right about now. So she's clearly running something. She's really latched on, I think, to this big boy press conference idea. Did you hear the whole White House talking about how he's going to have a big boy press conference next week there for NATO? Yep, NATO's coming to his doorstep, and he is going to be a big boy. He's going to put his big boy pants on. Forget the training wheels, okay? Joe is a big boy, and he's going to be able to do a big boy press conference. I mean, I can't believe this. This is what we heard coming from Kirby and KJP. Let's cue this one, Drew.
After that, the president will hold a press conference. I guess a big boy press conference is what we're calling it, and take some questions from y'all.
This week, President Biden will speak to national labor leaders of AFL-CIO, host the NATO summit to show the unprecedented strength of our alliance, hold a press conference, a big boy press conference, according to Justin Sink from Bloomberg.
They really like that. Big boy press conference. This is how you know Dr. Jill is in charge. She was asked today by a CNN reporter if she would be willing, if her husband and she had considered taking a cognitive test, that Nikki Haley was calling for a cognitive test on all candidates over the age of 75. And she was pretty furious. And she's, no. Why would we discuss that? Maybe you would discuss it because he's above the age of 75, because he's getting older, because he's struggling to walk, because he's struggling to talk, because he keeps looking off into space in a dazed and confused way. No. You see, she doesn't want to be challenged. She's getting really angry about this. One reporter had the unfortunate experience of just shouting out a question to her as she walked by. And Dr. Jill kind of lost her cool here. Take a peek.
Do you have any message to House Democrats who are calling for your husband to drop out of the race? How are you feeling about the state of the race? All right, ladies. Why are you screaming at me? You know me. Don't scream at me. Just let me talk.
Why are you screaming at me? Why are you screaming at me, you people? Have some decorum. I'm on the cover of Vogue, for goodness sakes. Have you seen my Vogue cover this month? I bet Melania didn't score that one. No, just Michelle Obama and Jill Biden. And wow, she doesn't want to be screamed at. She doesn't want anybody challenging her or her husband. He's in it to win it. He is too darn selfish, as is she, frankly, because I don't think that he's thinking for himself, to actually give up the reins to anybody else. And so we're heading for kind of a disaster. You know, look, we can't predict what happens to ourselves, right? And our future. And it's a scary thing getting older, for sure. I take my health very, very seriously. I really make an effort to do my part in any way that I can. Again, you know, look, Parkinson's is something that if he has it, you're not going to really be able to prevent that. I mean, you probably shouldn't be running the free world, but within the margin of error, on the margins, I should say, you know, we do have a certain amount of responsibility, I think, in terms of taking care of ourselves and protecting ourselves. And it's partly why I'm so committed to taking my vitamins every day. I take my fruits and veggies from Balance in Nature, one of our sponsors here on the show. You can take yours too, 50% off if you use my code word. You can just go to balanceinnature.com. This stuff is wonderful. I love Balance in Nature, and I drink a lot of water. Drew knows this. You can, by the way, go to trishregan.shop if you want to get your water glass or coffee cup in the morning. Live free or die, by the way. But this Balance in Nature, I love. I mean, fruits and veggies every single day. You can get this for 50% off if you use discount code TRISH, 1-800-246-8751. But drink your water, get some exercise, go for a walk. I don't care what it is, but take care of yourself. Take care of yourself to the extent that you can. And taking your vitamins, ideally from Balance in Nature, because I really do wholeheartedly recommend them. You know, you've got to do what you can to take care of yourself so that you can take care of all of those around you. even if you're not running the free world, so to speak. Not that it would have prevented anything, right? But we do what we can, ladies and gentlemen. Balance in nature is part of that. And the other thing I just want to say is on the financial front, you need to do what you can as well. In other words, we are responsible for ourselves. We need to recognize this independence. And so you need to have your health, and you need health and wealth, as they say, right? You need to also have control over your financial future. So the other really important thing for you to do right now is to start prioritizing you. Prioritize your health, prioritize your finances. Let us help you do that. I co-founded a financial research company with a very dear friend, Rob Horton, brilliant stock picker. It's called 76research.com. You can go to 76research.com or 76report.com. We have an introductory rate for the month of July. I'm so proud to bring this to you for just $1 a month. For the first couple of months, you get the 76 report with all of this research. And all of this opportunity for you to start thinking about markets and investing, it's right there for you. And then for an additional, I think it's $23 extra, you can add on a model portfolio with 10 to 15 stocks that we recommend for you for really good, solid holdings. Listen, everybody has different agendas and different needs. Some people really want a growth portfolio. Others want to be protected from inflation, and others want to have some income as they get into retirement. These are the things that we cover with all three of our portfolios. So go take a look. Use the discount code. It's my gift to you. Discount code DOLLAR, DOLLAR. Just type in dollar. You're going to get it for $1 a month at 76research.com or 76report.com. Because look, the world is crazy. For goodness sakes, and this team over there in the White House, they got no clue how to fix it. So granted, we need a new team. We need a new team fast. But in the meantime, what's going on? Somehow, these people are so off the mark and frankly dumb, like they were really tuned out in Econ 101. They don't understand the law of supply and demand that, or maybe they do, in a really kind of shady way. They're now opening up the SPR, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. This is the stuff that you save for the rainy day, right? When like you're at war and you need to manage your energy crisis because you're at war. That's why you have a Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Well, apparently the only thing strategic about it, as far as Biden's concerned, is that, you got an election coming up, so you need to release some of that oil that you won't let anybody pump or drill for here in the United States of America. That SPR that was filled by none other than Donald Trump at some $20 a barrel. Yeah, he filled it. They criticized him at the time. Oh, it's a handout for big energy, blah, blah, blah. And now they're using it. What's oil at? Somewhere around 80 right now? My gosh. Take a look at KJP's justification. Bragging about releasing oil from the SPR. My gosh, these people don't get it.
Speaking of which, last week we sold 1 million barrels of gasoline to help lower gas prices ahead of the 4th of July, which saw the lowest gas prices in 3 years.
Yay! Oh, yeah. Gee, that's how it works. You see, Donald Trump goes in and buys when prices are low. You just go give it out when prices are high. I'm telling you, I just can't believe these people are controlling the country. I cannot believe how ill-informed and how secretive they are and judgmental about their secretiveness. They had the whole media right there in the palm of their hand. And then suddenly everybody woke up and said, oh, this guy can't win. And now you got Jake Tapper over on CNN singing a different tune. You got the reporters from NBC putting the guy who's the dementia expert on television. You got Sanjay Gupta, the doctor over at CNN, writing about his concern about how Biden has some kind of cognitive decline. And given his experience with brain surgery, he's worried about the president at 81 years old. And what, they think we can sign him up for another 4 years? Are you kidding me? I get it that Dr. Jill is having her moment. But come on, ladies and gentlemen. We have a country that matters, a country that the world depends upon. It's really critical that we take our country back. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you share. Make sure you comment. I read all the comments. I sure do. So be careful what you put in there. I'll see you right back here live tomorrow.